gonna work for me.
Okay.
All right, we are now live on Facebook. Hi, everyone. We wanted to hop on here and give everyone just an updated weather briefing for what's to come later tonight into tomorrow morning. Also, updates on shelters and evacuation information. So with me here, we have Dave Reed with OR3, Brian Garcia with the National Weather Service, and Under Sheriff Chris Clark with the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office. So we're going to start off here with Brian from National Weather Service.
All right, thanks, Ashley. And I am going to try to share my screen here. And here we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see my see the satellite image out here. Again, Brian Garcia, National Weather Service here. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Really appreciate it. It's really important information that all of our agencies get to share with you all. So I wanted to share a couple things here really quick. What we got here is a satellite image of what we call total precipitable water. In other words, how much water is in the vertical column of the atmosphere. And you can see this big plume of moisture going from pretty much just east of the Hawaiian Islands heading towards California. And we did get rain today, indeed, but that was just the very, very top tip of the iceberg for this whole thing, because you can see all of that moisture is still offshore, and that the bulk of it, at least the front nose of it, is going to come in overnight tonight. So let's take a look at this different way. I want to show you exactly why it's going to do what it's going to do. And here is that plume of moisture going back down towards the Hawaiian Islands. And you see an area of low pressure. Hopefully you can see my cursor up here off the coast of Oregon. And that's essentially going to provide the focus, pushing everything down and squeezing that area of moisture right against California, right against the Bay Area and the Monterey Bay region here. So we still have a lot to get through overnight. Right now, our current radar imagery as of about 5 p.m. tonight, Thursday night here, we still do have a lot of echoes showing up on radar across the region. And the radar can only see so far offshore, so we don't get a total look all the way out, because the beam ends up going up high in height as the curvature of the Earth drops off. Sorry, flat earthers. But if we look at the radar that's on top of the sheriff's office here, we can also see those cells coming in to the area here. So how much rain have we gotten so far? Well, we've gotten about 1/2 inch so far across the county, and we're expecting several more inches to fall in the next 12 to 18 hours, so the overnight period. So let's take a look at some other items here I wanted to show. Here we go. And this is going to keep refreshing on me. Let's take a look quickly at the San Lorenzo. The forecast for the San Lorenzo still is to see a sharp rise tonight. So the blue line is what has happened. The purple line is what is forecast to happen. And you can see right at the end of that blue line, we're already seeing that churn up. Just with 1/2 inch of rain up in the mountains, we're already seeing that churn up. So that just speaks to how wet the soils already are. They cannot absorb any more water. And on top of all that, tonight we'll get some wind as that low kind of pushes down towards us and squeezes that moisture in. So we should see some trees down across the area, potential power outages, and then the rain, and with a rapid rising river. So if we look at some other locations across the county, you're going to see a very similar signal. And I'll show Soquel really quick here. Soquel down at Soquel. Look at this. Again, even down in the coastal terrace, it hasn't been a ton of rain, but it's still just 1/2 inch in the mountains, and we're already seeing that uptick here. So overnight, we've really got to watch all these rivers, creeks, and streams as we move forward. So I was going to show a little bit of model data, but I'm going to show a couple other things instead. So day one, this is today. This red area paints us in a high risk, or a moderate risk for excessive rainfall. If we move into tomorrow, so the first part of tomorrow especially, we remain in that moderate risk. And I feel bad for our neighbors to the south in Monterey County. They are actually in a high risk of excessive rainfall. And then thankfully, as we move into Saturday, we don't have any risk of excessive rainfall. So we'll actually start to see things come down. Those are for like the very shallow watersheds, those shallow rivers, creeks, and streams that get really flashy, come up really fast, drop really fast. But then there is always the good old Pajaro. And let's take a look at that really quick, because we have been talking about the Pajaro a lot today in conference calls that we've been doing. And this is going to be a slow rise. You can see it just ramps up, but it's a big watershed, gets a lot of water in it, and then it's got to work its way down the system. And so we won't see that churn going upward until probably overnight tonight someplace, where a lot of other rivers, creeks, and streams will spike overnight. This one's going to climb overnight and probably won't even reach into that monitor stage until we get into the late afternoon tomorrow. So we're gonna have to watch that and then see how high it ultimately goes during the day tomorrow and the overnight hours tomorrow. So all told, we still have a lot of rain to get through. We have a lot of wind to get through. So it's really important, if you haven't taken preparations now to get yourself into a safe location or to harden your structure and get things prepared, it's probably too late at this point. Make sure that you try to get out in a safe way. And if you've been put in some kind of evacuation warning or you get some kind of order, make sure you listen to your local officials and abide by what they're suggesting that you do. And make sure that you take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take care of your neighbors and your pets, and be good to each other. Thanks. Back to you, Ashley.
Thank you so much, Brian. And I want to let everyone know who's watching. I forgot to mention this earlier. If you do have questions, you can put them in the chat. We will be monitoring that. And if we don't get to them during the live video, then we will comment on them afterwards. So feel free to ask questions in that chat area. Now I'm going to pass it to Dave Reed with OR3.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Brian, again for being here in our Emergency Operations Center all day today. It's been great to have Brian and the National Weather Service here helping give us the latest information. So from an emergency operations standpoint, we've been working hard today, our logistics and care and shelter team, to prepare shelter locations for those who may be subject to evacuation orders. So those 3 locations right now that are in the process of opening or will be opening in the evening hours are the Vets Hall in Watsonville, Cabrillo College, as well as the Fairgrounds. So those are our 3 primary overnight shelter locations that will be opening. You can go to the county's website and there's a banner across the top and we have all of that location information there. If you click on that banner, it will bring you to our winter storm webpage to provide you with information there. Our public works teams have been working all day to make sure that we're prepared and ready for the brunt of this storm. As Brian said, that will be coming in through the night and early morning hours tomorrow. So we've been readying ourselves for the full force of this atmospheric river and preparing our resources and supplies to meet the needs of potential evacuation orders being issued through our Sheriff's Department. So with that, I'll keep it real brief. I'll hand it back to Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And now we'll pass it to Under Sheriff Clark.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Chris Clark with the Sheriff's Office. What I thought I'd do is kind of give you a little bit of an overview on what we did today and kind of what we're looking to do into the night, and then some things to think about if you're in some of these areas that experienced flooding back in early January. So again, you know, as you heard Brian mention, we're expecting heavy rain overnight. But today specifically, we did issue an evacuation warning for areas in the unincorporated part of the county. Those areas included all of the ones obviously that we saw flooding before. From north to south, we had Felton Grove, Paradise Park, the Soquel Creek downtown area, Aptos Flats, and then in areas in and around the Corralitos and Salsaquetas Creeks. We sent about 25 deputies that went door to door throughout all of those areas today. About 1,200 different homes and businesses that we made contact at. and let people know that they were in evacuation warning, and that and also provided them with resource information. We left resource information if folks happen not to be home. And that information included a link to county resources, letting you know, just as Dave mentioned, shelter information, sandbag locations, and things of that nature. So that's what we did. That's what we did today. Tonight, we're going to have 12 deputies that'll be monitoring the situation overnight, and obviously going into tomorrow. And we're going to be paying close attention, obviously, to the changing conditions. You're in an evacuation warning. Obviously, that means you should be really paying attention to any sort of messages that come to you, whether that be especially a code red message. Also be paying attention to zone haven, and then other weather related resources and county information. And then from there, basically, like we advised yesterday, if you have mobility issues, I couldn't stress this more. If you have mobility issues, if you have special accommodations that you need, now would be the time to really change where, if you lived in one of those areas that saw flooding before, now would be the time to gather your things and make your way to one of the shelters you heard Dave mention, or to some other alternate location if you feel like you cannot be there where you're at, or that you need special help to get out of any area. But again, we'll be paying really close attention as we go out, as the night goes on, to anything that were to change. This could go from a warning to an order, and I want to kind of be clear about that. There is a high likelihood we could transition to an evacuation order at some point, tonight or in the early morning hours. And so, with that being said, if it's going to take you longer to get out of an area, now would be the time to make those plans and really change where you're at. And then in terms of I just want to stress too, just please pay attention to the different weather resources, our social media, Code Red and Zone Haven. So we're going to try to keep you as informed as we can. And so obviously that was our plan today. That'll be the plan going into tonight and through tomorrow, and frankly through the rest of these storms as they come about. So yeah, we're hoping for the best, but obviously wanting to make sure everybody has as much information they can to plan for anything that changes. So with that, that's all I have. I'll pass it back to Ashley, and obviously we're happy to take any questions.
I only see one question on here from Santa Cruz KOA that said we are shutting down or potentially shutting down San Andreas Road, asking if we can confirm that. Under Sheriff, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the only road closure we still have is Highway 9. There are not any planned road closures, but obviously that could change just depending on how much water we get in those roadways.
Yeah, that is correct. But Dave, maybe Dave can pass on. There is a link to the county road closure information, which I would hyperlink or create a favorite with that one. I mean, especially if you need to travel. But that's a good point. If you don't have to travel tonight, unless you need to find another place to go to stay, really, you'd want to stay off the roadway unless you really had to change where you're living at. But anyway, Dave, I'm sure we can throw that in the chat or throw that in the comments.
Yeah, we'll definitely get the road closure application into the chat on Facebook for that. And then as a reminder, as Chris articulated and as Brian articulated, you may wake up in the morning to flooding conditions that are not impacting where you live, but may impact where you drive. So if you do see a flooded road, if San Andreas Road or some of the other avenues and roads that you travel have standing water, do not attempt to drive through them. You won't know exactly how deep those conditions are and how dangerous that could be. So just keep that in mind from your own safety standpoint.
Yeah, and if you ever want to follow the updated weather conditions as they change, our social media accounts are pretty active at NWS Bay Area, especially on Twitter. It's pretty much a real-time feed and stream of our consciousness from the office.
One more question I see here is asking, when will schools know if they are closing or not? I know that is up to each district. And so that, those are decisions that are made by the district, and they will let students and parents know as soon as they have made those decisions.
Yeah, we know that a handful of private schools have made their own determinations. I know that the sheriff's office will be in close contact with our county office of education, Superintendent Ferris Sabah, and let him know current conditions early in the morning. So I would say for all school parents and community, stay tuned, and your school will reach out to you and update you in the morning based on what we see fall overnight.
All right, and those are all of the questions that I see at this point. If I see any other ones pop up, I can just answer those in the chat. But thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Dave, Brian, and Undersheriff, and everyone watching on here. Everyone stay safe, and thank you. We'll be doing this again tomorrow, likely around 5 o'clock too.